Welcome to the E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Founded in 2013, the EHL is your next step on the path to college. Over the past decade, the EHL has established itself as the college placement leader on the East Coast. And now, here's your host, the commissioner of the Eastern Hockey League, Neil Ravin.
Thanks, Jim. And with that, let's bring in Jeff and Anthony. Guys, are we ready for a showcase?
Are we ever ready for a showcase, Neil?
I don't know.
I mean, especially the first one. This is spring training. Or a buddy of mine that I do broadcasting with at Northeastern, Chris Del Sordo, he calls it Broadcast Boot Camp the month of September.
Okay.
I told him, I was like, Chris, I like that title. I think I'm going to steal that. We're still very much in Broadcast Boot Camp, and the first showcase of the year is definitely going to be a fun one. It's just going to kick us in the teeth a little bit. And Anthony, I know you said you had 7 or 8 calls. I think I have.
I want to say I have 6. I still have some spotting charts to
6.
make, but you know what? I'm just looking forward
Excited,
to
right?
seeing the rest of the E crew.
Yeah, same. I think I got like 16.
I'm watching some good hockey.
4 each day. I'm symmetrical, Neil. I think I'm doing 4 each day.
Perfect.
4.
Break out the cough drops.
So combined, you guys combined for 22 of the 62 games we have over the next 4 days. So
crew heavy.
Why don't we start getting prepared for that with Around the E Show?
Let's take a look at what's going on around the E Show.
Around the E Show is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code EHLB1, that's EHLB1, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
So let's dive in, and I think it's pretty obvious where we have to start with an organization.
Is it though, Neil?
Well, no, because for me, this organization is making me look so smart right now.
Uh-oh.
And I think if you ask them this, they'd probably say they're a little bit surprised also.
Are you starting in the South Division?
The Pennsylvania Huntsmen are 5-0-0.
And they've done it in all sorts of ways.
You can't even dream this starts.
Zach Overholzer absolutely did. My best friend Zach, he definitely dreamed
even in your wildest dreams, Jeff, you dream like 4-1.
Do you dream of going into the city of brotherly love and just destroying every city or every team in Philadelphia?
There was a 2-1 game in there, yes, but there was a
true.
7-2 victory, an 8-2 victory. I guess, and maybe this is where the South defense Anthony can step right in. Is the true test now to see when they play someone not from the South this upcoming weekend? Like if they come out of this weekend and they're 8-0, like no one can say a word, right?
I mean, yes and yeah. Or no, Anthony, you can go first.
Well, I was going to say, I think for any division, right, where you want to see how you fare against other divisions, especially in the first showcase of the year in Worcester, because you always want to see, is the North going to be the juggernaut this year? Is the South going to be the juggernaut? Is it going to be the East? Yeah, I'm looking at the East Division right now, and some of the teams haven't played too many games yet, but they look like they're off to pretty good starts. But I think for the Huntsmen, it'll be interesting to see how they fare. I'm also trying to see what teams they're playing. I literally wrote it in my recap.
They have Seahawks, Spartans, and Warriors.
Yes.
In the reverse order. Sorry, I went backwards. I knew Neil was going to be like, wait, that just drove me insane? Wait a minute. You just went Sunday, Saturday, Friday.
But Jeff, another point that you started to kind of make there for a second, you look at the games played column of all the divisions, right? Everyone in the South has played 4 games or more. That's like, you compare it to what Anthony has said, the East, is it better to have played just 1 game, like the Seahawks, Express, and Bandits, or these guys who, they're 5 games in, the Huntsmen?
Yeah, and real quick, I was just going to say, too, I mean, for the PA Huntsmen, yes, they had a premier team last year, but this is their first EHL year. So to answer your earlier question, Neil, about playing someone besides the South, I feel like this is like a trial for everybody, right? Like, obviously, Arendes and some other guys have moved up from the premier, but it's a different speed. Premier and EHL, we've always talked about it. Totally different ball game. So I feel like every division for the PA Huntsmen the first time around is going to be, something new. So I don't think they have to necessarily look and be like, oh, we're beating everybody in the South, because I think the South's loaded. I think all these other divisions are loaded too, but I think that's 3 solid matchups: Warriors, Spartans, Seahawks. You get a little taste of 2 North Division teams. That's right. I'm still not used to all this change. Warriors now in the North. But also too, with the other thing we've always talked about, right, Neil and Anthony, as far as showcase games are remember the league showcase games, we're still doing the 2 25-minute halves.
Correct.
The mini showcases were going to the customary 320s. So the EHLPA Huntsmen have not delved into this yet. So is playing 5 games of regulation, 3 20-minute periods, going to maybe trip them up a little bit, as opposed to a team like the Avs or someone that's only, or Walpole, the Express Hockey Club, that has only played 1 game, or I don't know. We'll see for sure. But
and you go, Anthony. I'm sorry.
If I can make one more point, I think the other thing that'll be interesting is the roster dynamics, right? Because we've seen it for a while. First couple of games, you see the coaches and GMs trying to tinker with the rosters a little bit. You might have people dropping down from other leagues where they come into the EHL. Some guys who are trying to make the team, they might get traded to a different EHL team. And I think with the Huntsmen, maybe they think like, hey, the guys we have right now, they seem to be pretty good for us, right?
Yeah.
Where I think for other teams, they're still trying to figure things out. And I think with depending on how their showcase goes, I mean, not saying that the Huntsmen aren't going to make any more moves, but I'm sure at the very least heading into the showcase, they seem pretty damn confident in their guys. And seeing them firsthand, these guys are legit. They can play.
And you mentioned it in your story. Oh, sorry, Jeff. You go. Then I'll bring up the goalies.
I know we're giving the PA Huntsmen a lot of love. Zacho, contain yourself here. We're going to, but we have to continue this, because I think this is just another huge point that we always talk about with the podcast is when you look at the names on the Huntsmen's leaderboards, right? Look at John Manzi. This is a guy that was in the EHL last year, played for Terry Watt and the ProTech Ducks, had 17 points in 32 games. He already has 7 points in 5 games.
It's a pretty good pace.
Pretty good pace. Alex Erlane was with Team Maryland last year. He had 20 points in 42 games, but he's already at 5-5. So he's already at a point per game pace. Hunter Hoffman was another guy that jumped out to me that I remember from Team Maryland. Kind of a stay-at-home defenseman. Not anymore. 3 goals, 1 assist. So PA is tapping into some of these guys' potential that maybe certain teams' systems or coaching staffs or something that they could not tap into. So I just want to give them credit. And Damon Warren was another one from the Adirondack Junior Thunder.
Yeah,
we always say guys that stay in this league, we do a very good job of retaining. And sometimes guys just don't work out with a certain team. They move on to another, and then they kind of release some untapped potential. And I feel like the Huntsmen, just looking at first glance at their first 5 games, they've done an excellent job of being an expansion team, but kind of picking from each team guys that, and we saw Zach at a lot of these showcases last year. Obviously, Blaze Kilroy was there with his premier team. So they were already scouting last year for their EHL team, and they're off and running.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast last week, but when they won against the 87s in overtime, I think it was like the next day was going to mark the 1-year anniversary that they won their first EHLP game in the shootout.
Yeah.
But also, Jeff, just
to bring up called, right?
Yeah,
against the Wolves,
and Broadway Joe Sindoni, as James Witherite likes to call him.
We love you, Joe.
But Jeff, just going to your point real quick too. Last year, the Huntsmen did work pretty closely with Team Maryland, where that's why you have some guys who, played for Team Maryland. They're with the Huntsmen now.
That's right. And Randy's went up there for a little bit.
Now they're going to be rivals, right? Playing in the same division.
Now we hate each other.
Now Maryland's just like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah,
we
were friends. Not anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Not today.
But, Anthony mentioned it in his showcase preview story. Cole Fenema, a starting goalie for the Huntsmen, who I'm sure even they were like, all right, we're getting this 18U AA goalie from Texas. We think he's our starter, but he's been lights out so far. And really, just to kind of segue to another team in the South, the Huntsmen are 5-0, which somehow overshadows the Bears, who are 4-1. Yeah. And I can't wait to see the 6'6" Carson Fry in person, right? So Carson Fry, who played for the New Jersey Rockets last year, who were coached by Jason Kilcoyne, who is now with the Bears. He's one of those guys that he brought over. I mean, the start that he's off to, the 4 wins that they have, Fry's been in net for all 4 wins.
And 160 saves in 4 games. So you do the quick math, and Jeff, I know you say don't do math on air. This is pretty simple, though. That averages to about 40 shots a game.
Single addition is allowed, Anthony. But what
he's been seeing a lot of pucks, and he's
divide this.
He's been seeing a lot of pucks, and he's been up to the task. So you're right, Neil. I haven't seen the Bears yet in the regular season, so I'm looking forward to seeing them and how they fare in Worcester.
One of the few workhorse goalies early on, though, huh? Because we've seen a lot of teams with kind of rolling 3 different goalies 100%. In 3 games.
I wonder if he's also related to Alex Fry, who used to play for the Aston/Jamestown Rebels in the Null.
You know what? I trust with you, Anthony. You'll walk right up to him, all 6'6" to him, and you'll find out this weekend.
I'll have to crane my neck up, because I'm so. No, look, I'm so short that when it rains, I'm the last one to know.
Yes.
So short.
When you met the big bus at the showcase, Providence Bruins.
And here you go, Anthony. You can't get mad at the scheduler, because the showcase schedule that I gave to the Bears, welcome to the EHL, Wolves, Avalanche, Rangers.
That's a nice sprinkling. Jimmy Hughes, Chris Sorella, Rich DiCaprio. Hey, how are you?
Well, the thing
Railers. I'm sorry, Railers. I read the R wrong. Yes.
The thing about the New Jersey,
hey, how are you?
The thing about the New Jersey Bears, at least they have that foundation that was laid, because they just changed their name. They're playing at a different arena.
Yep.
Not to belittle their start, because they're also looking like one of the better teams in the division right now.
But not true expansion, like you said.
As opposed to something like the Huntsmen, where they had the EHLP team, now they have the EHL team, where you're starting a little bit more from scratch. But again, Bears and the Huntsmen do look to be the top 2 teams coming into the showcase. 87s have to show my homer flag a little bit. Getting wins in their last 2 games.
Yeah, keep those paychecks coming. Anthony.
Eric Tarneberg looked pretty good in goal too. But
big game on Saturday against the Rangers, right at noon, right in the middle of the day. Probably one of the bigger matchups. But then, speaking of hot starts, Jeff, a few more years of history that you have in this league over Anthony. Nothing on Anthony, right? But Jeff,
just age.
You know where I'm going with this next one, because when you look at the top of the East Division, what is going on? Because this is not the East Coast Wizards. And Corey,
who are my East Coast Wizards?
Corey will laugh about this, because typically their September is the other direction.
Yeah.
You were saying this earlier. It's broadcaster boot camp right now. It's like, don't even get me started with Belichick, right? But Belichick calls September like the extension of the preseason, kind of like what the Wizards have, but quietly in a way, they're a perfect 3-0-0 going into the showcase. I know
your mom and dad's East Coast Wizards, Neil. It's a new year. It's 2023, baby.
And I know the Express and the Seahawks have only played 1 game each, and they each won that 1 game.
They both look damn good too, huh?
So we'll see when they get to 3 games as well. But the Wizards out in front. The Boston Junior Terriers picked up 3 of 4 points this past weekend against the Lumberjacks. I guess I should say this, guys. Seth did love the fact that he was the first team to be dropped into the question, who are they? He did love that. So he was very appreciative of
Excellent.
that.
Still not sure who they are after last week either. Keep it going.
They split, but obviously the Terriers' loss came in overtime. If we're jumping ahead to fantasy too fast, there's a guy named Cody Walker who factored into 6 of the 8 goals that the Express scored in their first win of the season against the Bandits.
Only if he could go to McMorgan's if he was 21. He'd be getting all sorts of free beverages down the street, Cody. They're saying your name in Walpole, Mass proudly, but
Seahawks jumped out to a 6-1 win in their first game against HCRI. So, and then the Rangers got their first win of the year yesterday. So, in a way, guys, we could say the Rangers are ahead of last year's pace. When they started 0-4, remember that, right? So
we really got like everything this week, though, Neil and Anthony. I feel we got 7-5 scores. That Rangers. Speaking of the Rangers game, how about some revenge for Sean Bertoni and the Railers after last year's, not so kind Frozen Finals punch in the mouth? Rangers were up 3-0 in that game. Railers scored 6 unanswered to win 6-3. Hey, how are you? That's friggin' wow. Good for them.
It's
they're still trying to figure things out after losing Kalanick and LaPierre. We talked about that last week, and 6 goals will help any goalie. I think one of us can play goalie with a 6-goal cushion,
but it's just not Tyler if Anthony's shooting against him. Ooh.
Oh.
But
Love you, Ty.
you look at that division, the Rough Riders are out in front heading into the showcase. But again, kind of like last year, remember how the gap
Cooper
from
Smith.
to second to fifth place last year was like I think it was single digit points. You could jump a few different spots in one day. You got 3 teams at 3 points apiece. And then you go to that North Division, and it's like I know some teams have only played 1 game so far, but again, the Avalanche enter our first showcase without a win under their belt yet this year. Like it's just
Chris.
it's just
Big C.
It's just weird to think about, right? The Wolves a pretty emphatic opening weekend sweep of the Seacoast Spartans, wins of 4-1 and I think in 6-2 or 6-3. So remember the start they got off to last year too. They came out flying out of the gates. So
I noticed they brought Cam Reardon back too. Another, like we were saying, there's not a lot of veteran goalies that came back this year. A lot of younger goalies, but Reardon was a pickup late for the Wolves last year. I remember they stole him from the New Hampshire Monarchs NCDC, and he was good. He filled in for Trevor Jewell down the stretch. So, yeah.
So I kicked this off by saying, like, we got to start with the Huntsmen as like what's caught our attention the most. Outside of the Huntsmen, is there one team or one player in particular that has caught your attention the most? We could have already mentioned it. Maybe it's Cody Walker in the 6-point game that he had. I think I stumped you guys.
No, I would probably have to say Drake Tomac from the Boston Junior Terriers. 7 points in his first 3 games. He, back in the Frozen Finals at the EHLP side, he looked like one of the few forwards for the Boston Junior Rangers that was able to generate any offense for them, because their offense really struggled in Providence last season.
Yep.
But, he goes to the Terriers. He has, again, 7 points in his first 3 games. So here you have another expansion team that's really trying to, get a foothold in their 2-0-1 heading into the showcase. So yeah, they're riding pretty high right now. Tomac's been a big part of that.
I thought you were going to talk about the white gloves also, Anthony, but we'll talk about Tomac too.
I guess.
Someone that I've kind of looked at that I'm a little surprised by is I would say the Spartans at 1-2. Not sure what's going on there, but only 7 goals scored in 3 games. They've given up 13. We talked about Skelton being again, one of those few veteran goalies that came back. Kind of they lost 6-2 twice in a row to the New England Wolves. So 3-1 win over the Rangers on opening day. Again, I think everyone's still trying to find their footing, but we talked about showcase schedules, Neil. And so Seacoast, you get the 3-0 East Coast Wizards Thursday at 2 p.m. Start your showcase weekend. Then you have the PA Huntsmen, who are 5-0 on Saturday. And then on Sunday, you get a very good team that has been to the championship quite a bit, the New Jersey 87. So how's that for a blender of talent?
I wonder if I'm going to hear about it from a few coaches this weekend.
Yeah,
Jeff. You think I'm going to get? Hey, can I pull you aside for a second here?
Yeah, you slam the over on that one.
Yeah,
slam it, pound it.
Should I take the easiest, or not the easiest, the clear cut first thing that jumps out in the EHLP as well? Because this one's obvious. This past March, we were kind of on the edge of our seat where we almost had as big of an upset as we've ever had in EHLP postseason history. And it's almost like that momentum, in a way, has kind of carried over to this year for the Express Hockey Club, who have come out 3-0-0, and they've outscored their opponents 16-1.
You were throwing that. I remember you texted me about that the other day, and you're like, "Are they for real?" Tyler said yes.
This is not even just like beating teams, Jeff. Like, this is like thumping teams.
Yeah.
So, and I know, Anthony, you're on their first game of the showcase against the defending champions. Is that like the true prove it test for the Express?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, I just can't believe this start that the Express are on right now. I mean, Jonah Bird has been leading the offense. Their goaltending has looked pretty strong right now. Just 1 goal in 3 games. Like, what?
Good for them. We've already talked about Kyle Robertson.
Tyler was right. Shout out to Tyler Arago. He was saying that the Express are, they're reloaded for this year, and it looks like at both levels, they can really make a run for it.
And then you want to talk about goal differential. Maybe I'm taking this one away from you guys. You look 2 spots down in their standings. I mean, there's 3 teams that are 3-0 at the top of the Boston division standings between the Express, the Railers, and then a higher goal differential at 17 for the Valley Junior Warriors, who've already notched wins over the Rangers and Avalanche under their belt, 2 teams that were in the finals last year. So, Anthony, do I need to change the schedule, put a Valley versus Express game this weekend? Valley versus Express versus Railers?
So don't forget about the 11-1 win, Neil, where they got a touchdown and 2 safeties against the Bridgewater Bandits, too.
Ooh, I like what you did there, Jeff. Touchdown, extra point, 2 safeties, yes.
Get ready for my DraftKings read, that's why.
But of the 3-0 teams, are you guys with me and it's the Express that stand out first, or is it the Railers or is it the Warriors?
Ooh, tie goes to the runner. We'll throw some baseball in there.
I guess the Railers would be the least surprising because for the last few years they've done such a great job. Fine Lease coaching the EHLP team last season, going right to the championship, and I think. Then you have the Valley Junior Warriors, where last year their P team was actually pretty solid. They went 19, 17, and 6. And they showed a lot of promise at the EHLP level. And I think they're just kind of picking up where they left off. But yeah, then you have the Express, where they struggled a bit last season. Had that great series against the Junior Rangers, aka the Nick Piazza masterclass in goaltending.
Yes.
But right now, considering that 16-1 goal differential they have right now it seems to be a bit more balanced out, where they have good scoring, good defense to go along with the good goaltending. So I guess the Express is the more surprising one, considering the turnaround they've had. But I am going to be on the call for that Express 87s game. I can't wait to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, I'd agree with Anthony. Railers least, if we want to do the order there, Neil, the Railers definitely the least surprising. And then I'd say Warriors Express kind of tied. I always like teams that can do it with multiple players too. And I mean, the Warriors have 15 guys already in 3 games that have points. That is a thing of beauty. I know we had a couple of them as in our 3 stars of the week last week, rightfully so. So that's good for all these Premier teams. I'm glad to see the Premier. Oh, we didn't even talk about Cliff Graziano, the New Jersey Renegades at 3-1. Are we going there next?
We're only on the first division here still, Jeff. We got to get to those divisions. But the Railers right now are screaming at me because look who their 3 wins are against. They've also beat the Rangers. They've also beat the Avalanche. And then their 3rd win against the Lumberjacks, who didn't go to the Frozen Finals this past year. They went the year before. So maybe you can make the case. Maybe you can make the case their 3 wins are better than everybody else's.
Most impressive,
right? Yeah. But again, I think a mantra of all 3 teams could be revenge, right? Express seeking some 100%. Revenge.
Yep.
For the way that their season ended, where they almost pulled off that upset. The Warriors had a solid year last year, seeking some revenge for the way their season ended. And then, of course, the Railers, we know their season ended in double overtime of the championship game. So flying out of the gates, those 3 teams. Anthony,
and they have that. They also have that rematch against the 87s on Saturday, 8:10 a.m.
So wait a second, Anthony. Am I gonna hear this now about the 87s Premier team and their schedule, and they always kind of get the short end of the stick in the showcases? Let me just, before you say there's only 2 showcases this year in the EHLP. Beginning of the season and end of the season. So at some point, they have to play each other. That's all I have to say.
No, I'm not complaining about the schedule. I'm just pointing out that there's a rematch of the championship game.
Good.
I mean, the fact you brought it up first, Neil. Like, are you subconsciously feeling guilty about the schedule that you gave to these poor South Division teams?
I'll answer that question on next Thursday's podcast. We will point out too. I'm sure itching to get on the ice right now. the Seahawks haven't played a game yet this season, but
Mike Richard and the boys. Yeah, absolutely.
Itching to get out there this week. And then you go to that Mid-Atlantic division, Jeff, and we can point out the Renegades first, but what jumps out to me, Anthony, I need some sort of defense for this. 87s through 5 games, 102 penalty minutes. What are we doing right now, Anthony?
What are we teaching? What's the video room?
It's just a little edge this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There were a lot of penalties in that game against the Huntsmen.
Okay.
There were a lot of penalties in that game against the Little Flyers, where for Chris Russo and I, we had to write down all the penalties, and I think I had to get an extra sheet of paper just to write them all down. I was just writing. I was writing on the table on my broadcast booth as how many penalties there were.
18 in total, looks like 58 minutes for PA, 36 for New Jersey.
This 87's averaging over 20 PIMs per game. So
we love PIMs. We love PIMs. And then 13 penalties against Little Flyers, 7 for PLF and 6 for New Jersey.
Yeah. But at the top of that division, Jeff, you mentioned it. The Renegades out to a 3-1 start. A pair of wins against the Little Flyers, one against Union. Did lose their first game this past Sunday against the Huntsmen. And then their showcase schedule coming up, speaking of tough draws, if you will, they go Rangers, Seahawks, Bandits, Express. So what you'll notice for the EHLP, I screw that guy. For the EHLP, every single one of the 16 teams will play 4 games in a showcase once, either this showcase or the showcase in March, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Ideally, what I tried to do, this already sounds hypocritical as I say this, because the Renegades are a Southern team. I tried to make it so that the Southern teams were playing 4 games at the Southern showcase, and I tried to make it so that the Northern teams were playing 4 games at the Northern showcase. But
very nice of you. So they get extra time in their own beds.
Well, and I think next year, Jeff, I'm just gonna film how I do it, because that's the greatest self-defense for myself. Is just here are the hours. Here are the hours upon hours that I spend, and if you want to watch every minute of it, I'll walk you through it, because
we'll get a GoPro right on your hat.
Oh, please! It's like a puzzle, a gigantic jigsaw puzzle, but it makes it fun because again, up until this point of the year, it's really a lot of games within your division, right? So this is your first chance to cross over and as we've mentioned, prove yourself against the other divisions. And every year it seems like we have a different storyline or something that comes out of the very first showcase, whether it's the North or the South or you name it. But as we said, Renegades out in front of that division, right behind them with 5 games played, 87s, a win apiece for the Chiefs, Huntsmen, Little Flyers. So excited to see all those teams make the trip up this weekend. And then we wrap it up in the New England division. And you got 2 teams at the top right away that are both 3-1 in the Adirondack Junior Thunder and New England Wolves. And you want to keep the
back again,
the revenge tag active. They're both seeking revenge over the Avalanche, who they each have a win over so far. More impressive start so far, guys. Wolves or Adirondack?
Draw. 3-1, 4 games. Looking at their schedules comparatively, goals against, goal for. Yeah, I mean, Adirondack scored a little more, but they've given up a little more. Wolves have scored a little less, but given up a little less. I don't know. That's kind of a draw for me, Neil. What say you, Ant?
It's pretty funny because Colin McNeil was saying after that trip to Adirondack where they played 3 games, and granted, I think any coach will say this because Adirondack took 2 out of 3. Connell came back and he said we probably should have won all 3 games. But that being said, the fact that Adirondack then got a 6-2 win over the Avalanche, I think that their offense has certainly picked up where they left off after losing guys like Damon Warren, Jack Murkowski, Andrew Blanchard. I mean, Kyle Labuchier had such a great weekend against the 87s. Mac Ryan did as well. They both picked up hat tricks. So I think for Adirondack, they're kind of just like the Express, reloaded and ready to go.
Yep.
And for the Wolves, I mean, I remember they had a lot of young players last season, so I think they have quite a few returners on their team, and they've also been hot right out of the gate.
It's like you said in the article that you wrote, Anthony, wild start to the EHLP.
One of the favorite words echoed through Neil Evans' mouth.
I think that's one of the it's the best way to describe this so far. So that kind of sets the table where we're at for both divisions so far. It kind of feels like, I don't know, maybe this is a terrible analogy comparison, like a little appetizer so far, like just a little like taste of the season so far. I mean, everything that we've learned, I guess you could say, could get flipped on its head this upcoming weekend if teams like the Huntsmen, Huntsmen and the Bears, come out winless out of this whole thing. But what we do know coming out of this weekend is that we're gonna finally start fantasy. So why don't we set the table one more time for how this is all gonna work with the E-Show Fantasy Challenge?
Now it's time for the E-Show Fantasy Challenge. Follow along on the EHL app, available now for free on both Apple iOS and Android.
So before we jump into fantasy, there's a couple fantasy professional elements that I want to dive into. First off, I have to give a shout out to Jack Edwards. Jeff, I'm sure you saw the video, and Anthony, you did too. Justin was able to get him to do a cameo of our fantasy hockey drafts, lottery, whatever you want to call it. I got the number 1 overall pick. So
I was swearing. It's words that I cannot say on the E-Show because it's a family show.
Well,
his dog just screwed me. I think I got the 8th pick.
I honestly, Jeff, I think you're probably in a better spot. We can talk about that more off air, though. Because I showed it to Vicky. She's like, so who are you going to pick? And I was like, Connor McDavid?
If you pick anyone else, I will drive to him.
And she's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I was like, okay. So moving on from that, the second part, with the fantasy that's actually taking place right now, a lot of people are playing NFL fantasy. Jeff, I told you I'm doing my daily. I'm just trying to enjoy some good old football daily fantasy this past Sunday, and all I can see is Taylor Swift at a football game. Like, can we just watch football?
Cheering for Travis Kelce on when it's 40-0, huh? Isn't that something? All the Swifties. Then there was a little bit of a controversy that she was being shipped out in that popcorn bin. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to watch football.
And we had the Dolphins scoring 70 points. You had Devin A-Chain, now A-Chan, Raheem Mostert, 8 touchdowns between 2 running backs.
Yes.
That was a lot, Neil.
Again, Jeff, I've said this like 4 times. I'm just trying to watch football, and it's like, here's her cheering because Travis scored a touchdown from 7 yards out to make it 41-0. And it's like,
the Chicago Bears.
They're playing the Bears. But again, I guess if you had Travis Kelce, it was great because you got points for that, whether it's daily fantasy. Maybe you bet him in an anytime touchdown, Jeff, right? And he did the on the sports book, and you got points for that. But speaking of that sports book, they have a great deal DraftKings does right now for new customers. What's that?
So we're back with another week of football. DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us in on the NFL action deal with great offers every single game day. And remember, we've said this every week. There's Thursday Night Football. That's on Prime, so you have to have Amazon Prime. There will be down the stretch Saturday Night Football, but now it's Thursday, Sunday, Monday. There's been 2 games on Sundays. So single game day, there's multiple game days, so keep track of that. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. So throw $5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away with an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there, Neil. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Football's more fun when you are in on the action. So download the app now and sign up with the code THPN. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, you can call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That would be 467-369. If you're in Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
And now we get to the E-Show Fantasy Challenge part of all this. Key emphasis on fan again, because this is the last weekend of no fantasy for us guys. And for those that are making notes at home, your deadline is the end of the day on Tuesday, October 3rd. If you want to be in for the October challenge, it's got to be submitted by the end of the day, Tuesday, October 3rd. If you plug it in late and you try and get points that were retroactive to when you signed up, you say you try and sign up on the 15th, not how it's going to work. You got to be signed up before the fantasy month starts. If you go to our website, hover over the media tab, you'll see a fantasy challenge button. The first fantasy month is October 2nd through 31st, but for those that are wondering, obviously nobody plays a game on the second. I mean, that would be really poor scheduling, Anthony, to play a game right after the showcase ended.
Hey,
nobody plays a game on
3 and 3.
Yes.
You're bringing up the schedule, Neil, not me. I'm not
we're-
saying anything about the scheduling.
This is true. I came out firing today. So but no one's playing on the second, no one's playing on the third, but it really ramps up on the fourth. And really just to highlight some guys that you could pick so far. You have to pick one forward, one defenseman, and one goalie. Anthony touched on Drake Tomac, 7 points so far. John Manzi, 7 points so far. Trent King, 7 points so far. Out in front of the league is Perry Gaudreau. We mentioned Carson Fry. We mentioned Cody Walker. I mean, like outside of Tomac and Manzi, these are a lot of new names, guys.
Yeah, there's some old dogs in there too, Neil. I was just gonna say that's perfect lead in. Gavin Samopoulos, a guy that you could trust. AJ Lackus, another name that jumps out. Cooper Smith. So good little blend. Do you want new and exciting and you're not really sure what's gonna happen? Do you want someone that, maybe put in 10, 15 biscuits into the back of the net last year and had a few apples as well? Then the choice is yours. Yep. And actually, we all have to go to the website as well. And so it's deadline too. Right?
It's essentially going to be a Google. It's going to be a Google form. So it's going to be like you log in, or you go to this link, you click the box, you type in the name, drop down what team he's on, do the same for the defenseman, do the same for the goalie. You hit submit, it goes out into the cloud, as my mom likes to say, and then ends up on the back end for us to post, right? But it's going to be interesting because, like you mentioned, Gavin Samopoulos, Jeff. You may have just exposed potentially my first pick if you look at his hometown or home state, I should say.
He's probably from Alabama, right?
No, better than that, Jeff.
A little north, Maine. Maine would be my second guess. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. For all those that can't see my
again, he plays on the same line as Cody Walker, but you can only pick one of them, right? So
one forward, one D, one goaltender,
and for the most part, everyone plays the same number of games over the course of the entire month. They may have a heavier week than somebody else, but it all balances out over the course of the month. So, I guess we should mention.
It's kind of nice because that was a stressful part of the previous fantasy. Was like, oh, these guys only play twice this week. Who are their matchups? Do we think that they still would put, a lot of pucks in the back of the net or get me some shutouts? Do we go volume? That stress is gone. Well done, Neil. Well done.
Jeff, was it 2 years ago where Braden Patricia had an outstanding first week? Was it? And then I think it was Kyle
McKenna,
who wanted to pick him right again the next week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
and then I don't think they played the next week.
They didn't play the next week. So I was like,
like, oh, you can have Braden, sure. Like, and then he texted us later, like, I was like, nope, locked in.
Yeah, like sorry, that's gonna be a 0 for you, right?
Nothing
but again,
to see here.
It became tough, Jeff, in the years past because you didn't know what goalie was going to play. A team could have 2 games and he could never start that goalie, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would think that if you pick a goalie for the month of October, he should get at least 2 starts. You don't know when those are going to come. But again, it's been interesting. You could be like the Bears, who have started Carson Fry 4 of the 5 games. The Huntsmen, while Fenema is probably their starter and it shows that way as the season progresses, they've rotated all 3 guys in. So
this is our 5th year of fantasy, Neil? 2019, right? You and Brittany started it?
You know what? It's a good question that I should know the answer for, because I think it's actually the 4th year. Nope. Sorry, Jeff. No, Jeff, you're right. This is the 5th year.
Because it started in January of the 2019-20 season.
Yeah, this is our 5th year of the pod. It's actually our 4.5, because we started halfway through, right? But we'll call it the 5th season of the podcast. Wow, Jeff, that makes me feel old again.
Right? Hey, we're pushing like 200 episodes. This is what, episode 187? So
yeah.
We've done this a few times.
So the big thing, I think, for people to watch at home and in person this weekend is the chance to just do more research and see what other names stand out at this showcase. For those that are
homework, people.
Yes.
Me and Anthony are going to be cheating being on the call. We can be like, ooh, yeah, he was good. I remember calling his name quite a bit.
I may have to just come stand next to you guys and just listen to what you're saying.
Come on.
Are you saying that there's an equivalent to fantasy insider trading or something?
I mean, when you're on the call, right? Nothing we can do. We're getting paid to do a job for the league.
I'm pretty sure when Jack sent the video over, Justin asked him if he wanted to be a part of the league, and Jack was like, "No, I can't do that."
he said Nesson strongly looks against that. So
yeah, I mean, he probably would have some inside information that wouldn't make it fair.
Maybe he would not draft Connor McDavid first overall. He would be dumb for doing so. Neil, do not make that stupid mistake.
No, I think we'll report back. Actually, that draft,
Jesus for the win.
That draft is Monday, Jeff. So we could report
Monday night.
We could report back about how those drafts go, and if we actually were favorable about where we got put by Charlie, his dog. But
fantasy's gonna be crazy next week.
Honestly, like Jack Edwards seems like the kind of guy who would pick Matt Grzelcyk in the first round.
You're right, Anthony. Sadly, love you, Grizz, but fantasy, I mean, great plus minus. It's gonna rip your plus minus.
Hey, Anthony, he is like
might be Dan Heinen, who's on PTO right now.
He's like our version of Trent King. Actually, Trent King scores more goals. But when Grzelcyk scores, they're bombs. But it's once in every 30 games.
Right. He's more of an assist guy, plus minus.
Yeah. One thing that we will do though to try and help out a little bit of the research as well, the stars of the week that we submit after the showcase this year are also going to include 2 all showcase teams. So as you'll notice so far, we changed it. We used to do a forward and a D and a goalie each week. We have 23 teams now in the EHL, guys, 16 in the EHLP. So we're highlighting a star of the week every week in each division, each of the 4 divisions of the EHL, 3 of the EHLP, and then an honorable mention in each division as well. So in a way, because there's so much taking place in a showcase, instead of doing an honorable mention, you're also going to see on Monday the 2nd an all showcase team for the Northeast divisions combined and an all showcase team for the Central South divisions combined. So a chance for us to highlight just a few more players following our first 62 game showcase of the year. So ideally, the conclusion of this is you should have a much better understanding of who's in the league and who you should pick for the first month. But again, when it comes to fantasy this year, it's going to be a new month each month. So if you don't win in October, you'll also have November, December, January, February, and of course the playoffs to win. And for those that are wondering what you win, it's a grab bag of swag from my basement. So
grab bag of swag.
But hey, you guys have some EHL sweatshirts and stuff. It's some good stuff.
We do. So we wear my jacket this weekend because it is cold in the wick. So
yes, it is.
Bundle up.
But we will now jump into what to watch for and pick some games to keep an eye on this weekend.
And now here's what to watch for in the EHL and the EHLP.
So we're not going to pick one matchup apiece this weekend because, as I've said now on numerous occasions, we have 62 games. So we're not going to highlight three. We're not going to highlight 3 or 6 and just leave the other 50 plus because there's so much taking place. But you start on that opening day for us. I think it's actually perfect that we only have 9 games tomorrow, guys. It's the perfect way for us just to dip in before we get to Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow we have 2 EHLP games. All the games are in Worcester tomorrow, but the 2 EHLP games kind of bookend the day. Chiefs versus Warriors and Rangers versus Adirondack. But in terms of the 7 EHL games in between, Rhode Island versus Express, Warriors, Chiefs, Wizards, Spartans, Avalanche, Rough Riders, Terriers, Apple Corps, Bears, Wolves, Providence, Maryland. A lot of matchups that just feel very new, guys. So it's a good thing.
That's exciting. Yeah, I was gonna say it's exciting. It'll be kind of the first showcase also is kind of like figuring it out as far as we're all creatures that love to memorize names, numbers, and stuff. So not a ton of returners this year, so we really got to earn our checks to showcase Anthony by memorizing new names, new numbers, figuring out pronunciations. Oh man, who was it? I took a note of it. There's a kid that's up for the running with Zach Ula Dahajamed, Neil.
Oh man,
the longest name I've ever seen. Remember Zach Ula Dahajamed? What was it? Wilkes-Barre Scranton Knights?
Yes.
There's a kid I saw. His name is like Sajo Georgiaz.
Okay.
I forget what team it is. Damn it. I thought I wrote a note about it, but yeah, I saw it last night and I was like, what is this name?
What's funny, actually, we've covered Zach O a lot this podcast, Jeff. Zach Ula Dahajaman aged out, and now Zach Overholzer is our new guy, right? So
yes, our new Zach O.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm blanking out which team it is also.
I know, me too.
But, you then look ahead, though. Maybe you have them on Saturday, Jeff, when we have 18 games. Right? So
I got 4 of those. I know that.
8 of them are EHLP games. We also have to move some of those, obviously, over to Wellesley. There's only 2 sheets in Worcester. They haven't built the 3rd sheet on the roof yet. That's the only spot where they could potentially build it. I mean, there's no else where they could put it. They could only go up, right? So obviously because of that, we can't fit every single game in that building. Again, some big matchups to watch out for there as well.
Boston Sports Institute, I've heard good things.
Yes.
Nice rink.
All jokes aside, for the coach that did ask me this question, the Boston Sports Institute is not in Boston. So it's
in Wellesley, correct?
Yeah. So that was a question that I got. I hope that the coach that asked me that knows that we're laughing about it, right? So, but we did already highlight the 87s Express. That's Anthony's first call at the EHLP level on Friday. That's a 4-10 game. That's one of the EHLP games that's in Worcester. A bunch of good matchups on the slate there as well, though. I'm looking at right off the bat a Seahawks versus Wolves EHL game at 10 a.m. that morning, so that could be a good one as well. And as I mentioned, this is kind of the nature for the rest of the showcase. Another 18 game slate on Saturday as well, moving just as many games over to Wellesley in the EHLP. We touched on the 87s versus Rangers EHL that day. Looking at a Little Flyers Wizards game. We mentioned the Wizards off to a 3-0 start. Jeff called out Seacoast versus the Huntsmen. That's a big time matchup. For both sides.
Great for the Spartans to get out of their funk, right? I mean, you look at the silver linings there, a team that's kind of figuring it out still after having a phenomenal franchise year last year for Seacoast. That'll be a way to do it. Beat the 5-0 PA Huntsmen.
Yeah.
Bears versus the Railers.
Yep. Bears versus Railers. 87's Railers. That's the day of the EHLP championship game rematch is at 8. Look at the 8 and 8:10 a.m. games for us in Worcester on Saturday, guys. 8 a.m. Express versus Adirondack EHLP. 8:10 87s versus Railers EHLP. Wake up. That is
My first game's not till 12:10. Good night.
Well, okay. We'll see you when you get there then, Jeff. Man, if you want to
Yeah,
show up
a little early.
If you want to show up for 8 and 8:10.
We'll be 2 days in, so my voice will be nice and gravelly by then, and we'll be feeling excellent. So yeah, nothing coffee can't fix, Neil. You're not a coffee drinker though. No coffee, no gum for Neil.
You know what's funny is like
blows my mind.
At some point I got a cave, right, Jeff?
Even into dad life, you're still holding on strong.
Man. And then the last day of the showcase on Sunday, quick counting.
Careful, sir.
We have 17 games that day. Again, we have to push them over to Wellesley again, but we go all the way until an 8 p.m. EHLP Railers Avalanche game to wrap it all up. So there is no shortage of action throughout the weekend. There's an Avalanche Little Flyers game on Sunday, guys. That's a rematch of the playoff series from this past year. Semifinal series between the Avs and the Little Flyers that was in Providence. So, again, we weren't going to just pick 6 games out of the 62. There's really too many to choose from. But make sure to get over to Worcester this weekend and to Wellesley because the Boston Sports Institute's in Wellesley, not in Boston. Made that very clear.
He said it multiple times. If you lost it, rewind it, find it. Google Maps. It's a great app.
See, I said that, and then maybe that was a relatively mean comment. But like,
we gotta
Google exists.
If,
if you just type in Boston Sports Institute, the address shows up, right? So
yeah, last I checked,
I actually did a quick trip out there yesterday, guys. I brought 7.
I saw your picture.
7 of the
trip with 700 boxes.
Yeah, I brought 7 of the 10 boxes of polos that I have. Luckily, Jamie picked up the other 3 from me this morning. But obviously,
Jamie Calorie, good man.
Yes, every player is getting their headshot this weekend in a polo. So I don't.
That's right. It's headshot weekend, folks.
And I don't have what I had last year, Anthony. One more shot for you. The 87s player who didn't know what a collared shirt was last year. Remember that one? Yeah. He just tied the tie on top of a t-shirt. And I was like, well, where's the collar? Because it's a tie.
So this year we're doing EHL polos and avoiding dress shirt and tie.
Well, and like it's something that they could actually.
I'm trying to remember who that player was.
It was not an American. It was because I remember it was a crazy last name.
Was it Gamzatov?
No. It'll come to me. But I remember.
Oh, Remy Gushanushik?
Yes, that's who it was. because Adam texted me and was like, "Hey, I don't know if you saw it yet, but have you seen Remy's headshot?" And I was like, "The tie, the tie is literally over here because there's no collar holding it in place." And it's like, I want to be like, "Hey, listen, guys, someone took that picture. Someone took the picture and said that looks good." And I was like, you know me, Jeff, like little things make me want to pull my hair out, right? But again,
they sure do.
I mean, if we're still doing what to watch for, I swear our EHLP team has like half the Eastern Bloc on its team. And I mean, the top line though, Klim Kromsov, Ivan Kuligin, and Nazar Ata Elmanan, the way they move the puck, think like the Sedin twins, but 3 people. Some of the passes I've seen and the way they move the puck is absolutely mind-boggling. Where I'm even saying on the air, how did he see that line mate? Wow. And I hope they bring it to the showcase because Jeff, it's fun to watch.
Do you have an 87 EHLP game this weekend?
I know I have an 87's EHL. I gotta double check about EHLP because
I would love
Anthony. I'm coming back for that one.
I would love for you to call a 3-on-0 give and go with that line combination. That would just roll right off the tongue for you.
The Irish boys there. Call them the Irish line. Far from it. Like when people say, "Hey, you Italian?" No, I'm pale. I'm pale as it is. Thank you, Dad.
All right, we're running out of steam now. All right, so let's try and save the energy the energy for one more night here. But again, if you can't make it to Worcester or Wellesley. There's your W's actually, Jeff. Just noticed that. Love that. That's so symmetrical and perfect. If you can't make it to Worcester or Wellesley for any of the games in person this weekend, be sure to watch them all live on Flow Hockey, whether it's Jeff or Anthony or Tyler or Mike or Jake. We have got every game covered with a tremendous broadcaster to help you learn all of the new names.
Thanks, Commish.
And remind you of all of the returning names as well, so that when you're ready to submit your fantasy picks after the weekend is over, you'll be fully ready to go. So I will see you guys later this week.
Drink your water, eat your cough drops. See you Thursday.
Thanks for listening to The E Show, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Learn more about us at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when our next podcast episode is released.